Well, good evening. In last week's lesson, we finished up the Beatitudes, and I mentioned at the end of that lesson that I would have an announcement tonight. And you already know what that announcement is if you were at church the last couple of Sunday mornings. But I also said that this week's lesson would be based on that announcement. So let's just get straight into it. This is going to be the last of these online Wednesday night Bible studies that I'm going to be doing. The elders have decided that it is time to go back to in-person Wednesday evening classes. And if you remember at the Biltmore Church of Christ, then you know that we've been having those in-person studies on Sunday for quite a while now. We've started back with our Sunday morning classes. We've resumed the life groups. We've been doing all sorts of stuff the way we used to back before the pandemic. The only thing left is the Wednesday evening classes. Our teens, they've already been doing Wednesday classes for quite a long while now. But starting next week, we're going to go back with the adults as well. And since I will be teaching that class, I will not be doing a video anymore. For those of you who are not members of the Biltmore Church, and I know that we have several people in other states who do watch this class, I apologize for any inconvenience that this might cause. I might sometime in the future start doing some other YouTube online-based sort of study, but for now, I don't have anything planned, and I'm going to be ending the YouTube lessons. If you are in the Asheville area, I encourage you to meet with us in person next week at the building. I know some of you are probably pretty happy with this change. You're ready to get back together and get everything back to normal the way we used to do it. Some of you are probably not happy with this change. You kind of liked having this online format. You liked having it at your fingertips where you could watch the lesson at your leisure in the comfort of your own home. And that was actually a fear of mine. It has been since the very beginning. I went back and I counted. And if my counting is correct, this lesson tonight is number 61. 61 Wednesday evening Bible studies on YouTube. 61. 61 is a lot. 61 weeks of Bible studies. 61 is enough to develop a habit. 61 is enough to where you start to get comfortable, and that's just what you do now. And my fear was that we would be doing this so long that we all got in the habit of doing it. And when it was time to go back and meet together in person, nobody's really going to want to because, hey, for the last 61 weeks, we've been doing it this way. And I would just rather stay home. It's just a lot easier to stay home and watch it on YouTube and do it that way. This pandemic has caused lots of change. And I know in my own family, the only thing that we ever had delivered to our house before was pizza, but then out of necessity, we sort of discovered DoorDash. It was kind of nice having those hot wings delivered straight to my door, and now we don't really need to do that anymore. It's not necessary, but guess who still really likes having those wings delivered to the door? Me. It is so convenient. It is so nice, especially on Saturdays when I'm sitting in the recliner. I'm watching UFC. I'm watching the fights, right? Rachel doesn't want to make anything. Hey, let's just order some delicious wings, have them dropped off right at the door. It is so nice. It is so convenient. It is so comfortable. And I was afraid the same thing would happen with church. This was actually a debate among myself and Jason and the elders. On Sunday mornings, we were live streaming the services. We still do. But for a while, we were doing the virtual services. And then we came back together in person, and we questioned whether anyone would actually come back or just keep on watching the live stream. You see, we provide that for a very specific audience. We have some who cannot get out of their homes, and the live stream is really the only avenue that they have for worshiping. And that's why we offer it. That's why we do the live stream. We also have some who are watching in places where there are no churches within driving distance. The live stream is the only way they can really participate in a church service. That's why we offer it. And occasionally, someone's going to get sick and they have to stay home, but they don't want to miss out on the service, so they watch the live stream. That's why we have it. That's why we do that. The concern was that some people would use the live stream, not for those reasons, but just as an alternative. You could go in person. but it's just so much easier. It's so much more convenient to stay home. And so we've been kind of watching it, and as the weeks have gone by, the Sunday morning attendance has been going up. It's going up more and more, very slowly, but it's still going up, and people are becoming more comfortable with coming and attending in person. And I know that has been the case with churches all across the country as well. When they first reopened, attendance was about 50%. That's what it was here. That's what it's been about nationwide, 50%. And then as the weeks and the months go by, it's slowly climbing back up there. So that's a really good thing. At least I think it's a really good thing. Some people have actually made the argument that really virtual service may be the way of the future, and that it won't be very long until that is just how we do church. That's going to be the standard for church. We won't have the buildings anymore. We won't be meeting in person. Instead, we will be online communities of believers who meet virtually to worship and to study together. When everything shut down, a lot of businesses realized they don't need office space at all. That's an unneeded expense, because they could do business just as effectively, just as efficiently with everyone working from home. So why not just save money and do it that way from now on? Some restaurants, they went out of business, but there were others who discovered they can make just as much money doing delivery only. And they don't really need that dining room. The thing is, church was never designed to operate that way. If we were a business that was only concerned about making money, then I'm sure we could find a way to make money without having any human interaction. But we're not a business. We're not trying to make a profit. And some people would argue, well, yeah, but what we are doing is learning from the Bible. And I can actually do that better if I'm at home just getting the lecture. I don't need to show up for Bible study. I can study at home. And you know what? I get that. I actually did my entire master's degree in theology online. Lots and lots and lots of Bible study without ever actually being in the same room with my professors or with my classmates. I was a little concerned about how that was going to work at first, but it actually went very well. And so I get that argument. However, the thing we have to remember is that church isn't meant to be just a Bible study. Hebrews 10:24 and 25, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Notice that in that passage, Bible study isn't even mentioned. He says we are supposed to meet together, and why? To stir up one another to love and good works, to encourage one another. He says we should not neglect to meet together, and it has nothing to do with sitting and listening to the preacher talk. And it has everything to do with fellowshipping together, talking, hanging out, enjoying each other's company. I read an article which I don't completely agree with, but I do get the point of it. And it was talking about how Christians need to spend less time studying their Bibles. And that was in the title of the article, that Christians need to spend less time studying their Bibles. I thought, what in the world? That caught my attention right there. How is he going to defend this? Let me go ahead and read this article. Well, the author was making the point that the first church didn't have Bibles, right? They don't have a completed Bible. Therefore, they really couldn't have put any emphasis on studying the Bible. Their emphasis was actually on being together, being brothers and sisters in Christ, reaching out to people and showing love, getting involved in each other's lives, so on and so forth. Studying the Bible, that's like not even on their radar. I don't agree that we should spend less time studying our Bible. It's very important that we do, but point taken with that article, right? We do need to be concerned about fellowshipping. We need to be concerned with outreach. We need to be concerned with getting involved in people's lives, reaching out to one another, and spending our time together and doing life together. And in Acts 2, I think Luke really paints a beautiful picture of what the first church was like. He writes verses 42 through 47, and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. They were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. This isn't just a picture of them worshiping together or studying together. This is doing life together. That's what the church is supposed to be all about. And unfortunately, not all congregations are like that. I know there are some that believe the church is only meant for worship. That's it. Sundays and Wednesdays, and anything more than that is not what the church is for. But I don't believe that is a biblically defensible position. And we say this a lot, and that's okay. We should say it a lot because we seem to forget it a lot. But the church isn't the building. The church is the people. The church is you and I. It's the people. So can you really do church without the people? I read another great article that was in Christianity Today, and the title of this one was, "If We Can Worship Anywhere, Why Go to Church?" And in that article, the author says, quote, "I don't go to church to worship Jesus. I go to church to worship Jesus with other people, because I need to worship Jesus in the company of others. We all do." He goes on to say, "I need to worship Jesus along with people I know, people I don't know, people who know me, people I share life with, people I share common beliefs with, people I disagree with, people who love me anyway, and people I have to love anyway." And then later in the article, he says, "Yes, I know that going to a church service is no guarantee that a real church experience will happen. But I do know this: not going to church guarantees that this vital element of our spiritual life will not happen." And I couldn't agree more. The world is changing, and I consider myself and my generation to be in a very unique position in history, because we're right there in the middle of some really big changes taking place. I grew up not having a computer, not having a cell phone. There was no Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. None of that was around as I was growing up. Atari happened when I was a kid. And technology, it did that hockey stick curve where it starts really slow and then all of a sudden it just shoots up and it takes off. And suddenly everything is smart. We've got smartphones and smart watches and smart homes. Everything is wireless. Everything is at our fingertips. And I'm in the generation that wasn't totally before all of that, and it wasn't totally after all of that. I got to actually watch it happen. And from my perspective, all of that change that took place, some of it's good, some of it's not so good. Some of this stuff really benefits us. Some of it's great. Some of it's not so great. It's actually hurting us. And in my opinion, the biggest negative to come out of all of this is the fact that we are losing the personal touch. We're invested in people's lives as it comes through social media rather than being invested in people's lives personally. And I know what's happening. I know what's going on with all of you because I follow you on Facebook, not because I actually talked to you, not because we actually sat and had a conversation. And with COVID has come a whole new era where let's just do everything virtually. Let's never leave our homes. Let's get our groceries online and have them delivered. Let's go out to eat without actually going out to eat. We'll DoorDash it. Amazon is our favorite website in the world because I don't have to actually leave my couch. I can do all the shopping I want. I can get everything I need without ever going out the door. And guess what? Me personally, I am super guilty of this because, as many of you know, it is great having those services, and I'm not going to complain about Amazon too much because I love it. It's great having that service. But as this affects all these different things in our lives, we can't let the church be affected by it. We can't let the church fall into this category. We can't take this sort of approach when it comes to our brothers and sisters in Christ. We can't take this approach when it comes to our spiritual lives or when it comes to our worship. The virtual services that we were doing for a while, and now these virtual Bible studies on Wednesday nights, these were meant to be a temporary solution to a temporary problem. And even though we might find this temporary solution to actually be more convenient than the old way, it was never meant to be the new norm. We must be involved in one another's lives. This is one of the reasons I love being a part of the youth group here at Biltmore. I find so much encouragement from these kids, and even though they do get sucked into that social media black hole from time to time and they're just staring at their phones, they also get involved in each other's lives. They bond together and they show what it means to be brothers and sisters. And yeah, sometimes brothers and sisters fight. Sometimes they don't get along, but they're family. They stick together when they have each other's backs. They exemplify Romans 12:15, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. They do that. And as adults, we can look at that and we can learn from them. We need to take a page from their book. Church is not done in a vacuum. Church isn't done in a sterile, controlled environment. Church is done in the world. And when it's done in the world, it gets messy, it gets ugly, it's a bit volatile and unstable. And for that reason, we need each other. We need someone to lean on, and we need to be a shoulder to lean on. And I want to go back to our passage in Hebrews and look at that one more time. Hebrews 10:24 and 25, and let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. This is our last online Bible study, at least for right now. As I said at the beginning, we might start something else later on in the future, but at the moment, there's nothing planned for that. Instead, next week, we are going to meet here at the building at 7 p.m. for an in-person Bible study. And even though we call it a study, and even though I've got a lesson planned and we're going to be doing a class, I encourage you to consider how to stir up one another to love and good works. I encourage you to come to that study with the intent of encouraging one another. I want to thank you all for joining me for this lesson tonight, and I hope to see you in person next week. Have a great week.